Hello again, and welcome to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Emily.
And I'm Nick. And today we're talking about one of our favorite ways to learn English, through creativity. Not drills, not textbooks, but through acting, singing, and storytelling.
Because sometimes, the best way to connect with a language isn't through memorization, it's through expression. When you sing it, perform it, or tell it like a story, English becomes yours.
And honestly, we've met so many learners who struggled with confidence until they found a creative outlet. Acting out scenes, singing along to songs, or even just narrating their day like a story, it made English feel alive.
We'll dive into why these methods work, how they train your memory, your pronunciation, your fluency, and most importantly, how they help you enjoy the process instead of dreading it.
Because when you're singing or performing, you're not overthinking. You're feeling. You're inside the rhythm of the language. And that's where a lot of natural learning happens, without pressure.
And the nice thing about creative practice is that it bypasses the fear. You're not sitting there worrying about grammar. You're focused on the emotion, the movement, the sound of it all. It's learning through experience.
Exactly. Take singing, for example. When you sing along to a song in English, you're not just picking up vocabulary, you're getting intonation, connected speech, phrasing. You're internalizing real language patterns.
And acting does something similar. You're stepping into someone else's words, someone else's mindset, which means you're also stepping out of your own fear. You're playing, not performing for a grade.
It's also great for pronunciation. You're repeating lines with intention. You're focusing on tone, stress, emotion, all the things that make your English sound more natural, without needing to study phonetics.
And then there's storytelling. Even if you're not into acting or singing, telling a short story about your day, your past, or even something imaginary, it builds fluency fast. Because it connects memory, meaning, and language together.
It also teaches you flow. When you tell a story, you're learning how to keep going. How to link one idea to the next. How to speak, not just in sentences, but in moments.
Yeah, and stories don't have to be complicated. You could just talk about how you made tea this morning. If you tell it with a little detail, a little rhythm, it becomes real practice.
And what's brilliant is, the more you practice telling stories or acting out small scenes, the more comfortable you get with making mistakes. Because your focus shifts. It's not about being perfect, it's about being clear, being you.
That's so true. And I think learners forget sometimes, creativity is language in action. When you sing, when you act, when you tell a story, you're doing all the things fluent speakers do. You're using tone, timing, and feeling.
And it's fun. Honestly, it brings joy back into learning. I've worked with learners who felt totally stuck with traditional methods, but when they started using music or short monologues, their confidence took off.
Even doing a silly role play with yourself, like pretending you're ordering food at a cafe, or giving a weather report, it tricks your brain into real conversation practice. It doesn't feel like study, but it works.
Exactly. And if you're shy or introverted, you don't even need an audience. You can record yourself. Or just stand in front of a mirror and speak in character. That little bit of distance, that sense of, I'm playing someone else, gives you freedom.
And when you do that regularly, you start to notice something shift. Your pronunciation improves, yes. But also your fluency, your ease, your presence. You sound more like yourself, in English.
And that's the magic, isn't it? You're not just repeating words. You're learning to embody them. And that's where fluency really starts to feel natural.
Because at the end of the day, we don't speak just to say words. We speak to connect. To express. To feel heard. And creative practice gives you that space, even when you're practicing alone.
And honestly, if you think about how children learn language, they do it through play. They sing, they pretend, they act out situations. And they pick up fluency without even realizing it. Adults can do the same.
Yeah, just because you're older doesn't mean you have to learn like a robot. You can still play. You can still experiment. And sometimes, that freedom is exactly what gets you unstuck.
I think a lot of learners feel like they need permission to be playful with English. Like they're only allowed to use it in serious ways, for business, for school. But no one talks about using it to tell a silly story, or sing your heart out in the shower.
And yet, that's where real growth happens. When you're relaxed. When you're smiling. When your brain isn't locked in anxiety, but open to rhythm, emotion, expression.
And from a memory point of view, it actually sticks better. Music, for example, taps into different parts of your brain. You'll remember a lyric you sang once better than a word you read 10 times.
The same with a story you acted out. That scene becomes a memory. A reference point. And next time you're in a real-life situation that's similar, your brain says, "Oh, I've done this before." Even if it was just pretend.
That's why we always say, don't wait until you're fluent enough to enjoy English. Start enjoying it now. Use it like a tool, but also like an instrument. Something you can play with. Something that brings you joy.
And that joy matters. Because if you enjoy it, you'll keep doing it. That's how habits are formed. Not from pressure, but from pleasure. From the feeling that this language is part of something fun, expressive, and meaningful to you.
Exactly. You're much more likely to stick with English long term if it's connected to something you love, a character, a song, a story. Those are the things that keep motivation alive, even when progress feels slow.
And it also makes English feel more like your own. Not just a subject at school, but a part of your identity. A way to explore, create, and connect in ways that feel natural to you.
I think that's such an important mindset shift, to stop seeing English as something external you have to chase, and start seeing it as something internal you can grow into. Like a voice you're discovering, not building from scratch.
And that discovery can be so surprising. You might find out that you're funnier in English than you thought. Or more poetic. Or more confident. Creativity helps you meet those parts of yourself.
And the more you practice through acting, singing, or storytelling, the more those parts become comfortable. Familiar. You start showing up in English the way you show up in your own language, with personality.
And that's fluency, really. Not just knowing the right words, but feeling at home in the language. Feeling like you can be yourself, fully, freely, and without apology.
So whether you're singing a silly song or pretending to be a character from your favorite film, just know, that's English practice too. And honestly, it might be the most powerful kind.
So wherever you are in your English journey, whether you're just starting, or have been learning for years, don't be afraid to make it creative. Let yourself play, perform, imagine, and express.
Because fluency isn't just about sounding correct. It's about feeling connected. To the words, to the rhythm, and most importantly, to yourself.
Thanks for spending this time with us. We hope today's episode gave you a new way to look at English, not just as a subject, but as a stage, a song, a story that you get to tell in your own voice.
We'll be back soon with more, right here on the British Accent Podcast. Until then, take care, and keep finding the joy in the language.
Because that joy, it's where the real fluency begins.